Fans of the Horus Heresy, thank you very much for joining me for another model and rules review. And today we are taking a look at the Cerberus Heavy Tank Destroyer by Forge World. So here we have the Cerberus, one of my favourite Space Marine Legion vehicles. Obviously, let's talk about the name, the Cerberus. Clearly, this is borrowing from Greek mythology and is named after the famous mythical dog or hound, the three-headed hound that guarded the gates to the underworld. And this is a sister vehicle to the Legion Typhon heavy tank, and I also like the mythological link there, of course, because Cerberus was the offspring of Typhon. So a nice little nod to the mythology there. So yeah, let's have a look around. Let's have a look around this vehicle. This is a full resin kit by Forge World. It's, as you, I'm sure you are aware, this is based on the Spartan chassis, and is but it's not just a It's not a standard vehicle. This is actually a super heavy tank. So sits in the Lord of War option. Lord of War slot, should I say, in the Legion list. The kit at the moment, I think it costs about £105 if I remember rightly, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, it's a great looking tank. Very nice looking model. Let's have a closer look at it. So, well, I guess the thing that really jumps out at you about the Cerberus is its main weapon array, which the whole vehicle has been constructed around, and this is a neutron laser battery, and as we will get to, this is a formidable weapon system, quite unlike anything else in the Space Marine Legion. It has a pair of sponsor mounted las cannons. In the kit you also get alternative heavy bolter attachments, so you can also have heavy bolt guns mounted on your sponsons if you want to up your anti-infantry capability. This is a conversion. This pintle mounted heavy bolt gun is a conversion I did, and there's a separate video talking through about how I did that, if you're interested in taking a look at that. Nice usual power pack detailing. It's got a double exhaust stack on the power pack. Overall, very nice looking vehicle. I'm just going to remove this front gun shield. I've not attached it yet to make it easier to paint. So if we take that away, we can actually see the neutron laser in a bit more detail. If you assemble it carefully, it will sort of latch in this upward position, although the movement it won't hold in between there unless you do some additional work to create some friction there. But yes, as you can see, it does tilt should you wish to do so. Now, interestingly, on this version, through a fortuitous event, I acquired a set of tracks on this Cerberus, which are the new style casting from the Spartan, where the tracks are actually moulded onto the track unit. Now, I don't know if you buy one of these kits, if you actually get these on it, or if it as standard comes with the separate track link. So in terms of my review, bear in mind my perception of assembly will be based on the fact that these track units are a doddle to assemble. But yeah, very nice detailing. You've got this capacitor perhaps, or whatever it may be, that powers a neutron laser. Nice detailing up top on the tank. Then you've got the commander's cupola, obviously various targeting lenses. If we look underneath the tank, you've got a typical amount of underside detail on this vehicle. The kit quality on this was good. If I'd done an out of a pack review, I would have given it a 9 out of 10. The only issues I had were these two sponsor mounted las cannons had significant mould slippage, so I had those swapped. So that is a watch out, and I would say always watch out on any of these sort of sponson las cannons on any Land Raider, because I've had quite a few issues with those, and it seems to be a common problem with mould slippage on those guns. And because they're cylindrical and you've got all these banded designs, it's not easy to put that right. Assembly on this was of all the Spartan and Land Raider chassis vehicles I've built, and I've built 3, this was the easiest to build by far. It was pretty straightforward, and I actually I was surprised by how easy it was to put together. In terms of assembly advice, obviously you want to be careful with your. You just need to spend a bit of time aligning these 3 laser barrels to get them looking reasonably straight, because they've got a fairly shallow recess here, so it is possible to get 3 all sorts of wonky, crazy angles. The hull, as always, with putting a hull together on a vehicle like this, do lots of test fitting and push fitting before. There was a bit of a gap on the underside. You can see some filler there. You can see a gap there where I've not filled, and likewise on the underside, this front underside plate, there was a bit of a gap. However, overall, this fit together quite nicely. Oops, just lost a door there. The doors are just tacked on at the moment, so I'm waiting for some icon doors. But yeah, I think in terms of assembly, that's the only watch out, is just around this hull, getting the hull evenly spaced and making sure you don't have any, spreading any gaps that exist in terms of left and right side. I magnetised the las cannons on this. So these are quite nice and detailed, and they magnetise well. I use these. I think these are 3 or 4 mil by 5 mil. Fairly strong rare earth magnets, perfect. I use that for all my sponson weapons, so they're all interchangeable if I want them to be so. Overall it was a good build, this one. Quite fun to assemble. You get a couple of spare parts and the heavy bolt guns. Another just build tip: when you assembling this gun shield, I ended up with some quite noticeable gaps because this is 2 parts. There's an upper part and a lower part. There's a couple more, but that's the main part. So I just went back later and did some filling. Around that, and once that's painted, it should look like a single continuous piece. Let's bob that back on. There we go. Yeah, overall, very impressive vehicle. And it would certainly makes an excellent centerpiece of any art on me. Right, so let's do some quick size comparisons. So first off, a standard human. So there's a Solar Auxilia las rifle dude. It's not looking particularly noticeable there. Let's move on to a comrade. So here we have a Iron Hands Tactical Support Marine armed with graviton gun and looking rather cybernetic. No, not much bigger. And final infantry comparison. Here we have the Iron Hands Iron Father model by Forge World, who also makes, if you're an Iron Hand Legions player, makes an excellent Ortec Moor character figure if you wish to play with one of the most formidable Terrans ever. But yeah, it's a big old tank. Let's move up to a slightly larger comparison. So let's stick alongside the largest of the dreadnoughts. So yeah, there we have the Leviathan Siege Dreadnought, and yeah, it's just slight. It's probably the same height as the Cerberus. So the Cerberus is it's a big vehicle like a Spartan. There you go. So let's move on and discuss the rules for the Cerberus Super Heavy Tank Destroyer. So as I say, it is a Lords of War choice. It's 395 points base. So with 395 points, this is one of those bargain basement Lords of War slots. And for any game that you're going to play featuring a Lord of War, the Cerberus will fit into that list. Its stats, so it's ballistic skill 4, front and side armor 14, rear armor is only 13, so unusually for a Land Raider stroke Spartan class vehicle it loses a point of rear armor, and that's to reflect the somewhat more fragile design because of the unstable reactors that power the neutron laser battery. And it has 6 hull points. Special rules, it's a super heavy vehicle, and the war gear, so it has a twin linked neutron laser battery, a searchlight, smoke launchers and a flare shield. So very unusual. Most super heavies don't get flare shields, so this is a standout in that department, and gives it a lot of survivability. And special rules is it has its own reactor blast rule. Weapon options, for 20 points you can put sponson heavy bolters on, or for 40 you can put las cannon. I built for las cannon. I mean, this is an anti-armor vehicle, so I would generally favour that. It's only an extra 10 points to put the Pintle heavy bolter on, which seems a more sensible use of the weapon hard points. You can put a hunter killer missile on it for 5 points and armoured ceramite for 20. As I say, you can put Pintle mounted weapons on and you have a full range of options, going from a twin link bolter at 5 up to a multi-melter or havoc launcher at 15. So a useful additional weapon slot. Right, let's talk about the actual special rules, and this is what makes this guy stand out. So firstly, it talks about the reactor blast. If the vehicle gets destroyed, or if it loses its last hull point, you add +1 to your catastrophic damage table roll, and then the vehicle is removed. So it can never be a wreck. It will always explode and destroy itself. And the reason for that is the atomantic reactors that power the neutron laser battery. So the neutron laser battery, the signature weapon of the Cerberus, the head of the Cerberus. Right, so this thing is a ultimate, or almost the ultimate nutcracker anti-armor gun. It is a range of 72 inches, it is strength 10 AP1, and its special rules are primary weapon D3, so each time you fire, and this is different every time, you take D3 shots, so it has a somewhat random nature to it. It has the concussive rule, feedback and shock pulse. So what does feedback mean? So if you fail to penetrate the armour of an enemy, of a target, or it fails to wound against a target, so armour saves don't count, but failed wound rolls or armour penetration rolls count. You roll a d6. If you get a 1, you basically, part of the beam gets reflected back at the tank and you lose 1 hull point. So that's an automatic effect, and there's no mitigation against that. The next rule, which is shock pulse, so this is obviously an offensive capability. If you inflict a penetrating hit on any vehicle, including a super heavy vehicle, that vehicle is limited to snapshots on the following game term, and they have one of the main, or the unique selling point, shall we say, on this vehicle, and what really sets it apart is the shock pulse rule. You can inflict hits on super heavies that will stop them firing their template weapons and ordnance weapons the following turn, which is excellent. So clearly this has applications in Titan fighting, and even the mighty Warlord Titan is not immune from frontal shots from this thing. So if you were to build this into part of a Titan fighting force, it's a really nasty sting in the tail, so you'd need vehicles to down the void shields, but then you attack with this neutron laser battery, and you can then deny even a Titan as big as a Warlord most of its effective fire on the following turn. Equally it's very effective against monstrous creatures for the concussive rule, and I imagine as the Horus Heresy rules develop, this will be an excellent thing with which to zap one of the large demons, such as say Samus, zap it, concuss it, down to initiative 1, and then assault it with supporting units the following turn. And then clearly against anything remotely mortal in the armour department, and that includes Land Raider class tanks, this thing's just going to tear them apart in no time at all. And Night Titans are particularly vulnerable as well. They're very vulnerable to penetrating hits from this gun, and they're not going to make their invulnerable saves all day long. The downside to this tank, well, clearly with D3 shots it's random. You may get 3 shots, you may get 1, so it has a degree. It's not as dependable as most weapons in the Marine arsenal. And the second thing is it's of limited value against hordes of enemies. You can only kill a handful of troops each turn with its weapon array. So yeah, that's the downside. It's a specialised anti-tank and anti-monstrous creature vehicle. Other options, right? I'm just going to talk about a special character which fits with this tank very, very well, and this is the Iron Hands character, Spearhead Centurion Castraman Orth. So Castraman Orth is a Centurion for the Iron Hands. He's not a support choice HQ, so he can lead your force, and he has to be assigned to a tank with an armour value of at least 13 on the front. So the Cerberus is perfect. And the reason why Castraman is so good for the Cerberus in particular is he has a ballistic skill of 5. So your neutron laser battery is ballistic skill 5 and twin linked. So your accuracy is extremely high, and that helps mitigate the random number of shots each turn. But then the thing that really makes it stand out is the fact he has tank hunters special rule for any of its attacks. So primary weapon combined with tank hunters means you have an excellent chance of scoring penetrating or at least a glancing hit with the neutron laser battery. So if you're an Iron Hands player, this tank is an excellent choice, coupled with Castraman Orth. So there you go, the Cerberus heavy tank destroyer for the Space Marine Legion. Great looking vehicle, specialised but very effective at what it does. If you have a Cerberus or thinking about getting one, leave a comment in the comment section. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening. I will speak to you next time, and goodbye.